Hello and welcome back, our Nonprofit Whisperers. I'm so glad that you're here joining us once again. Excited about a few new episodes that we're going to be rolling out for you. I want to give a special shout out to all of those who have recently joined our community. Thank you for subscribing. And don't forget to share this with other people that you know, your colleagues, your coworkers, your local nonprofits, your national nonprofits, whoever it is could benefit tremendously from what we have to share with you today. So I'm your host, Erika Gerena, along with my co-host, Jim Dempsey. The two of us have over 50 years of experience serving in the nonprofit sector across sectors of society and want to bring all of that resource to you, to our lovely friends and community here at the Nonprofit Whisperer. So this week, I'm excited about an episode where I've invited a personal and dear friend, Natalie Maniscalco. She is a sharp marketing and PR guru. Now, we've been talking a little bit and unpacking about marketing as it relates to nonprofits. But what is the difference between marketing and public relations? How much do we really need a publicist for our nonprofits? How important is copy and content when it comes to engaging with our different audiences? Natalie's going to unpack some of that for you and give us some tools that we can immediately put to practice every day for our nonprofits. So without further ado, I want to introduce to you Natalie Maniscalco, and she's going to share a little bit about her world and what the difference is between marketing and public relations. Welcome back, everyone. We're so excited to have you with us today and to have a special guest with us, Natalie Maniscalco, a friend of mine for many years, and I'm so excited to have her on our show today. And of course, the one and only Jim Dempsey, who's on the line as well. Greet the
Hey, everybody.
Yeah. So Natalie, welcome. We're so excited.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so great to be here with both of you.
So Natalie, I've been a fan for years and have known of your work for so long, but why don't you share a little bit with the audience what you do and a little bit of your professional background?
I would love to. Thank you so much again for this opportunity. I am a publicist. I have been a publicist for about 15 years. I specialize in bilingual marketing, public relations, events, and designs. I own my own business here in New York and New Jersey, basically, so tri-state area, but I have clients all over. And I've specialized in working with clients like lifestyle clients, food, nonprofit organizations, events, and even restaurants as well, which is a big thing right now that I'm working on. And I have really been able to navigate the New York City media, both in Spanish and in English. And I've worked with so many different organizations and media outlets that it's just been an incredible career that I've been able to create for myself, and also putting on the hat as a nonprofit founder, and very excited to talk to you about it today.
That's incredible. Now, I definitely want to unpack the bilingual aspect, of course, for our viewers. I am always so amazed, when I first met you, you were working and kind of leading the PR and marketing for this massive salsa event. And I was so impressed in the city because it's one of the largest, if not the largest one, right, in the country?
Yes, in the world, actually.
In the world. Okay. Yeah. And so you had people there from how many countries?
Oh, there's literally every country. I think one year we had every country, a ticket bought from every country except Antarctica.
There's no salsa in Antarctica? How dare they?
maybe next year they'll come.
That's amazing. Okay. So if that's it, all right. So that being the case, what is the secret? Because if it's one thing that I know about nonprofits, we just are coming out of 2 episodes talking strictly about marketing, but talk to us about that publicist role and the importance of that PR, that public relations.
Well, I think for me, the big difference is I've always been very business oriented. I'm also creative, and sometimes that's hard for people to separate, or they can only be one or the other. So I'm grateful that I'm both. I love being creative. I love art, and I love photography and the visual aspects of certain things. But I've always been very business oriented. And I think I think, and this is what I've actually, from speaking to a lot of nonprofit consultants, is to always have your business hat on when it comes to nonprofit. Of course, you hear that word nonprofit and you think that there's no profit involved, but that is the core of the growth, the expansion, is that you do need that financial component. And it's really important to be able to see that vision and to look at a nonprofit as a business rather than as an organization or a charity.
And so in doing that, like, what do you think is a thing that separated your work from being able to cross so many cultures and kind of bring them all into New York City? Like, what's the secret sauce?
Well, I mean, for me, I personally have a personal interest and passion for culture, for languages, for people. And I contribute that to my upbringing. I grew up in a very diverse high school or school district where literally every culture I grew up with. And there was no difference between Black or white. There was no difference between there were, you knew who had more money or not, but it really didn't affect your friendships. And any issues that we had in high school had nothing to do with the color of our skin. And our teachers were very much like that as well. And everyone was of different cultures. And then I just had this love for traveling and for learning about different cultures. And I moved to Europe. I moved to Italy, and I then also moved to Spain, where I started learning Spanish. I had already learned Italian in high school and in college. And my passion for culture, I have to say, is because of my Italian teacher and him just always encouraging us to be open. And I wish everyone can grow up that way, because even today, a lot of my friends from high school, with everything going on, they all say the same thing. Like, it's such a shame of, just the fighting and the white over Black. It just didn't exist in our world. And so I carry that on to my business as well, and being able to just easily adapt to feel comfortable with any culture, any person, even language. If their language was, their English wasn't as dominant and I could still communicate with them and make them feel comfortable. And so I created a business where I have this niche of having a foot in two worlds, and especially the Hispanic world, because I just have this love for Spanish culture. And as I always say, I'm Italian. My heart is Italian, but my feet are Latina, and my soul is Latina. So, I learned Spanish living in Spain, and then I came back to the United States and learned that there's even more Hispanic cultures, and there's so many differences between the languages and the just the food and the music. And so I continued to learn because I wanted to learn. And so that's how I really got into taking on clients like the New York International Salsa Congress, which then that work there, when I was doing, public relations and marketing for them, I then attracted a really big client like Goya Foods, who, just kind of took my career and took it to the next level, where I was able to take their company and help them to actually do the reverse. So instead of going from the general market to the Hispanic market, I was now taking them to the general market media, because they had already been exposed to, the Hispanic culture. And working with them has been amazing too, because they do so much community work, and they do so much nonprofit work. And a lot of my PR work with them is about exposing their story and the things and the wonderful things that they do for their community. And so that kind of, I was able to attract even more clients because of that. And now, because the Hispanic culture is so big, most clients, even if they're not Hispanic, they want to be in the Hispanic market. So I was able to really expand on, my services and the clients that I was able to attract.
I love that so much. And it is important. You know why? Because Latinos make up 19% of our nation's demographic right now, and growing. And so we will be at 25, 26% over the next decade, probably way before that, especially if we keep having babies at the rate that we're having them.
Right.
But yeah, so it's an important demographic. And I think, and also represent 1.7 maybe trillion of buying power in the United States, that a lot of people don't really consider that. And so when you think about those kinds of numbers and those kinds of stats, then if you're a business or if you're a nonprofit, you need to be focused on this demographic.
Right.
They are very, very important and are continuing to grow. And so who doesn't want a piece of that pie? Who doesn't want a piece of that?
Exactly.
So that's super wonderful. And do you find that there is a difference, Natalie, or is it just like, guys, it's just PR? Like, I mean, it feels simple, but it's so overwhelming for those and intimidating for those who are never really involved with that. So is there a difference when I'm trying to engage the Latino community versus any of the other countries you're trying to get to show up and engage?
There is a difference, and that is important to know. You know, especially within the Hispanic market, because there's so many different cultures within this, who's, you know, Puerto Rican, Cuban, Mexican, you know, you name it, you don't always market the same way to each of those cultures. Like, you're not going to play salsa music at a Mexican event, you know, so there is understanding the differences between each of the cultures and how each culture takes in what you're trying to market. I mean, something like a salsa event, right? That's actually probably the easiest thing, because that attracts all different types of cultures. I mean, you have white, Black, Asian, Russian, Indian, you name it. Salsa attracts all different cultures. And that's really what the beauty of that music and that culture is about. But yeah, it's definitely important that you understand the market. You know, even right now, I'm working with the National Museum, the Jazz Museum in Harlem, which is also a nonprofit, and we are working on their fundraising gala. And so that's predominantly, you know, an African American audience. And so my job is to understand that the culture and how to tell their culture in a unique way in terms of doing public relations and marketing for them, and knowing right now what the stories are. And so this is actually a great time for stories like from a museum that, you know, Black history and Black culture and music played a vital role in the jazz movement. And so now taking that story and using it to bring awareness to the actual museum, but also to the gala event, which is then, you know, their major fundraising event that they have every year.
So if I'm hearing you right, this is so key for people, it's like, tell the right stories.
Exactly.
Which nonprofits do every day, you know, but it's like, we don't though. That's the problem, is that we don't.
So the thing about PR, and PR should really be the core of your communications, because once you have that story, that PR story, you can then take it and use it for your marketing, you know, for your newsletter, for your website, for your social media, so that your communications is consistent and it's all aligned. And the thing about PR, your public relations is not within, in terms of, you know, the community outside your window. The PR is dealing with the media. So it's almost, you know, thinking of it as media relations. You're working with reporters and you're working with producers of local television stations, podcasts, newspapers, magazines that are going to tell your story. So what you need to find is that human element, that news angle that you know that media outlet is going to want to hear. And it's not just about like, this is my nonprofit organization and this is what we do, this is our mission. That's great. There are millions of nonprofits out there, but what's that human element to that nonprofit? What story can you really talk about that takes your nonprofit from A to B, to really be able to show the results of the work that you do? And that can be a personal story of how you have affected someone's life or a family's life or a community's life in some way. And that's the story that you need to then take, put it into the media, and then take that and then spread it through all of your marketing channels.
I'm so glad you said that. Just different, like the difference between PR and marketing, when people are always trying to group it together, it's like even not knowing that is already telling me you're doing the job wrong. So.
Yeah. Yeah. No, understanding the difference between public relations, marketing, advertising, sales, right? That's all part of your communications blueprint. Let's just call it that, right? But they should all be telling the same way. I mean, the same thing, but you're all doing it in different ways. And that's where you need to know the difference. And PR, it's very, I mean, all of the channels you have to be creative, right? You have to be able to know how to tell the story, and whether you're verbalizing it or you're writing it. So you want to make sure that you're telling it in a compelling way. And so when you're pitching your story to the media, the first sentence is the most important. The second sentence is just as important. And it's really the two sentences are going to hook them on saying, this is a great story. This is why I want to write this story. This is why I want to work with this nonprofit organization. And that's what's really important. And that's the difference between PR. Most people, it's hard for them to understand what PR is if they don't actually do it. But once you get it, then you're like, oh, okay, now I get it. I see PR stories all the time on TV, but it's just like, well, how did those actually happen? And that's, through whether you're doing it yourself or you have a publicist or a PR agency. It's not advertising, but it's a form of advertising. And you don't pay to be on TV. You pay a publicist or someone who can contact the press to put you on TV and develop the story for you.
Natalie, tell us, if I'm a nonprofit organization, when's the time that I should start to seek out professional help in the area of PR? When's a good time? What do I look for?
The best time to start is when you have the visuals of your story. So when you have your photos and you have videos and you have people within your organization that can tell your story. And so that could be as soon as the first, second month that you start, or that sometimes can take a year. It really depends on the nonprofit and where they are in their stages. For us, so, just to lead into Wonder Girls, our nonprofit organization, I mean, obviously I have an advantage, right? I'm my own publicist. I understand how it works. And most people think that we've been around for a year, at least at this point. And we started in December, and I already landed us a national, TV segment. And so
love it.
It could have been looked at from the back end, not from the front end, but from the back end. Maybe we were a little too soon to do that segment, but from the front end, we made it look like we are rocking and rolling, which we definitely are. And we thankfully have already started events that are able to show our story. So the visuals of us working with our girls, our high school girls, and then them just getting a taste of what we do and being able to confidently express that. Like, what is a Wonder Girl? What does it mean to be a Wonder Girl? And they're already feeling like, oh, I'm supposed to be confident. I'm supposed to be independent. I can do anything. And that's the mission, and that's what we've been doing. And then taking that story, and if you look at our newsletters, and if you look at our website, and then if you look at our social media, it's all telling the same story.
Wow, that's great. Well, boy, I'll tell you, Nana, thank you so much. Tell our audience how they can reach you at this time.
Sure. If you're looking for a publicist, you can check out my website, Retro Media NYC. You could reach out to my email through there. And if you would like to check out our Wonder Girls after school program, it's to benefit high school girls. You can go to wondergirlsusa.org. And there's so many different ways. If you love our mission, to get involved, whether it's through our volunteer days or donating, working with us, whether you want to be part of our media team. There's a ton of different ways that you can get involved, and we're always open to meeting, so many professional women and men too, to help us grow and expand.
So Natalie, also before you go, because I want to give you a chance to share with our audience why this was important for you to do. Like, speaking of stories and trying to connect all the dots and paint that visual for folks, like, what are the stats? What's the data? Like, why is Wonder Girls so important today?
Sure. It definitely is it hits home in terms of, personally. So prior to being a publicist, I was a high school teacher, and I also was a soccer coach for 2 years. I coached a girls varsity soccer team. And I have always loved working with that age group. And I had always wanted to get back into teaching. At the time when I was a teacher, I was in my 20s, and I still needed to go back to school. Financially, it just didn't align at all. When I say that I tried in every way possible, but it just didn't work out. But I always had that love. Like, I love the art of teaching. And I just I've always wanted to do something, but just couldn't figure out exactly what it was. And then this opportunity came, and my colleague and co-founder, Irene, and we both have the same passion. She has 3 teenage daughters, and, reading all these stories about young girls and the effects of social media now, the effects of pandemic. Yeah. If you look at studies, it's, 7 in 10 girls feel inadequate and inefficient in some way. And to me, that's just insane. I mean, if you think about it, you walk into a room and majority of the young girls don't feel good about themselves at all. They probably don't even want to be in that room. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, I feel like has drastically changed over the years in terms of girls' self-confidence. And it affects boys too, but in a different way. And so now that, where I am in my career, and the network of professional women that I have, been able to create along with Irene is just so immense. And the women are so wonderful and diverse, all different cultures, professional women. They just want to help. And that's what Wonder Girls is about. It's about bringing these women in to show these girls that, we were in your shoes, we were feeling insecure, but look at us now. We can stand on our own 2 feet, and after this program, you're going to feel the same way. And we want our girls not to feel confident when you're 40. We want you to feel confident when you get out of college. You won't have it all figured out, and that's life, right? We know that. But at least feel like good enough about yourself in a way that at least get you through the tough times in your life, and feel that you kind of have some sort of direction. You're not wasting time and money, especially that college is so expensive, that you sort of know what you want to do by the time you get into college. And so that's how Wonder Girls was created. We launched it in December, and wow. It has just sort of, organically spiraled, and we have 10 different high schools and centers that want to bring the program to their school because there's just such a need at this point.
Well, congratulations on that incredible success. There are organizations that have been around for 15 years that are not in 10 locations. Consider yourself winning, my friend. You are doing so well, and that's super important work. And so we will provide the links below to get in touch with Natalie. She is a gem, and so I highly recommend her. And so, Natalie, thanks again for being with us today. And we like you so much that we're going to continue this conversation in another episode. So stay tuned, folks.
And ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Nonprofit Whisperer. We would love to have you as a subscriber, and make sure that you go in and click the bell so that you're reminded of the next episode. And so on behalf of Erika and Jim Dempsey, we just appreciate you so much. And Natalie, hang on, and we'll keep talking for our next episode. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.